DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool. Tonight's DJNTV show is sponsored in part by Electro Voice, DJ Event Planner, ADJ, NLFX Professional, Promo Only, Numark, and DJNTV Insiders.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Wedding Chat with Jeremy Brech and Dave Ternier.
Good evening.
Evening, Jared. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. We received another 7 inches of snow on this lovely spring day. But actually, I have a great story. This is not going to be our main topic, but I have a great story about my wedding this last weekend when we had 17 inches of snow and 60-mile-per-hour winds. I can't wait to tell you about that as we get later into the show. I'll bring that up again because that's it was pretty interesting.
Wow.
You would think snow would be done, but nope. We got 17 inches this last weekend, 7 inches today, and I'm really hoping we're done with it.
No kidding. Well, that'll be a good topic as well for all of our Ontario listeners as well, because they had a hell of an ice storm this weekend. They had, what was it? It was like 17 degrees Celsius above one day, and then it froze the next day, and they got an inch of rain, and like tens of thousands of people without power, and yada yada yada. So they'll appreciate hearing your woes on this matter as well.
Yeah. Oh man.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wedding Chat. I am Dave Ternier,
and I'm Jeremy Brech. Nice to see everybody. Actually, I guess Dave, you're really the only one I see here. But nice to have everybody watch this. And this is what had happened like every week. Anyways, our topic today. Our topic is, what was our topic?
Where do we have meetings?
Where do we have meetings? Yes, and why do we have meetings?
Hearing your woes on this matter.
Oh, you're.
That was bizarre.
Is that from you or is that from John? Did John still here?
That was me.
Okay.
Conducting what is commonly referred to as a faux pas.
You really enjoy hearing yourself, don't you? You are the typical DJ.
So I'm not in that, but that's another topic. We've covered that anyway.
Okay, so I know that this actually came up last week when we were talking. I think someone had the question about how do you do your meetings and those type of things. And I think we've touched base a little bit on this, but it kind of brought up a good point. So tell me about how you meet with your clients. What do you do? Do you have an office? Do you have a storefront? Do you have tell me how special requests, how you set up your meetings with your couples.
The Office of Special Request Weddings is voila. And I host a remarkable number of meetings from here now. But I don't have clients come to my house. I do so many video meetings now. It is remarkable.
And you have a lot of people that actually kind of travel into your area. Is that correct? I mean, what's your population, first of all?
I live in the middle of nowhere. I live in a 2,400 person town. 30 minutes south of me is the city of Brandon, about 45,000 people. And then 2 hours from there is the city of Winnipeg, which is about 700,000 people. So,
okay. So where do you do most of your business?
That was a great question. 3 hours that way, 3 hours that way, 2 hours that way, 2.5, 3 hours that way.
And depending how you're sitting at your computer watching Dave's arms, you could be south, you could be west. You don't know. But
yeah, I cover a pretty large area out of, I guess you could say, necessity, right? I don't have 100,000 people right here, or 200,000, or whatever some people might be used to. As a result, there is a lot of distance between me and my couples. And I'm not talking just, the 40-minute drive across town. I'm talking, 60, 100 miles, 100, 120 kilometers. So as a result, I'll drive 30, 40 minutes to meet one of my couples, be it a consult or a planning session. But my wife, she works shift work. We have 2 little girls. So in order to open up my schedule more, I will also make meetings like this available, because it allows me then to conduct meetings after my kids have gone to bed, if my wife is working a night shift. And I've probably shared with you before, I wasn't a huge fan of video meetings prior to working with Tyler and Caitlin, who hired me to travel a ridiculously long way for their wedding, like 14, 15 hours drive type of thing away. And I didn't meet them until like 3 days before their wedding in person. And that was the first couple who demonstrated to me how remarkable meeting like this could be via video, because when I met them, like, it was as if we'd been friends for ages, even though we'd never physically met.
Yeah.
And that was a huge point for me.
So for a lot of people who are watching on YouTube and Facebook, what Dave's talking about, the software that we use to kind of create what you guys experience every week, the software is called Zoom. And hold on, my heater just kicked in. See, that's how crappy the weather is here. Our heaters are still kicking in.
I can't hear your heater, if that's any help.
Okay. So the software that we use to host this show, or that John uses to host the show, is called Zoom, and it allows, you can actually do multiple people. So if you have, say you're working with a certain client, say we're going to talk corporate here. Maybe there's a planner out in California, a planner in your local area, yourself, and then there's somebody else who are kind of involved in logistics. You can actually do a full conference meeting right here in the Zoom software, and you can record it. I mean, there's a lot of cool things you can do with the software, but I think, Dave, you bring up a great point that, even though you can't touch that person, you can't actually physically, be with that person, seeing their body language and experiencing them on a video chat, I think, is extremely important. And I think that is so valuable. So to actually have the visual interaction is so much more important than actually hearing each other. Because I mean, I've had conversations, I've had full planning meetings where I've actually never met the couples over the phone, and that's great, but you lose a lot of that connectivity because of maybe distractions, maybe just because the connection, whatever. I really think that the video chat is a very strong tool, especially in your type of situations.
Yeah, it's just become such a huge thing for me. And from a financial point of view, I mean, Zoom is bizarrely affordable. Jump onto zoom.us, I believe, is the website. Look at the plans. Like, it's stupid cheap. It's like, for my purposes, which are very small, it's like $15 a month. Let's do it. And the money it has saved me in gas, traveling to meetings is unreal.
And I've had problems with, people are like, well, why don't you just use Skype? I've had problems with Skype. Skype doesn't really have a really strong connection, or, all of a sudden your words aren't matching up with your lips, and it just doesn't look as professional. I like the fact that you can actually screen share. So if you're like, hey, here's some of our packages, and, here's a little slideshow, here's a video that I can share. You can do all that within this software. So it's
you know why Skype sucks, though?
No.
Microsoft bought them.
Oh, yeah. Microsoft is the all-in. I mean, I'm not saying that they're the
no. I'm just joking. But yeah, you're right. And the other thing I don't like about Skype, or maybe even like Google Hangouts, or even FaceTime for that matter, when it comes to the Apple ecosystem, you have FaceTime as an option, is for all of those, they're a touch more cumbersome to use. For instance, Google Hangouts, right? You have to find their username. You have to do all this kind of stuff. With Skype, you have to add them as a contact before you connect with them. You have to do these things, which with Zoom, I mean, Jeremy, you know as well as I do, right? I mean, I literally pop open Zoom. I can click schedule a meeting. I schedule it for the date and time, give that meeting a title, and it'll create a unique link. And that couple, all they have to do is click on that link. Even if they've never used Zoom before, a small data pack will download to their computer, and something will pop open, and they don't have to log in. They don't have to know the password, nothing. So slick.
Okay, so let's stay on this a little bit. I want people to understand, okay, so where do you do your video? Like when you do a video chat, are you where you're at right now?
Pardon?
Like your backdrop to yourself. When
Oh.
you're doing video chat, is this what it looks like? Is this what I would see as a groom?
Correct.
Okay. So a couple of things I kind of want to point out and what you have in your backdrop. I don't know what the certificate is, but you have your branding, you have your logo, which I think is extremely valuable. But your room is clean. It doesn't have a lot of clutter. It's very simple.
Almost.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
But so last week you had me expose the curtain. You had me keep my curtains open. I left it open for this week because I'm like, you know what? This is kind of an important detail when you are meeting with people. You want to show them that you're A, organized, B, that you're professional, and that you look professional. So typically when we do this show, my goal is to keep those curtains closed so you don't see everything that's going on back here. You don't see all the cables, I have like 600 gobos right over there. Nobody wants to see that stuff if you're having a very professional meeting with someone. So I don't typically, like when I do a Skype or I do a Zoom call, I typically won't do it in this office. I actually go to our downtown office to do that because there we have like pictures of some of the events that we've done. We have our logo behind me, and so similar to what you have your logo back there. In that the visual appearance that's behind you also reflects you as a company. And so we take advantage of that in our offices. So anything else that you want to kind of add before I get into when we do our meetings and such?
No, I mean, let's let that rest for digital meetings, which I think are just way of the future for everybody. Let's have you touch on how you do your in-person meetings, and then I do host a lot of my meetings in person as well. So I'll touch on that. We'll let you share what you guys do.
So we basically provide two options to our client or to our potential client. When we have a sales meeting and so on. I live roughly 20 minutes away from our offices, which are downtown Sioux Falls. And I'm on the southwest side of Sioux Falls. So I'm this way of Sioux Falls. But the reason I would meet someone downtown is because presentation wise, I want to kind of impress them. We take care of our offices. We have a nice building. We have a nice layout. And we like to bring people in the downtown area. But if there is a client who is, we're getting off work and so on, we'd love to meet with you. No problem. If I'm working this is my warehouse office. If I'm in my warehouse office, I don't want to have to drive 20 minutes just to go to a meeting if they're also located on the southwest side of town.
Okay. Right.
I will never bring people here to my warehouse meeting. I'll never have people come to my warehouse. What I will do is I will just check with them and say, I see you're on the south side of town. Do you want to meet at, typically we'll go with Panera Bread. Okay. And I know some people are like, oh, don't do coffee shops. Don't do that. You know what? It's up to you. But more importantly, it's up to your client. You'd be amazed how many clients are like, oh yeah, Panera, that's perfect. You know what? That'll be great. We can grab something to eat. But the thing you have to understand about when you go to Panera or you go to a coffee shop is you need to engage and concentrate their concentration. You need to be able to have them focus just on you. So a couple tips or a couple things that I always keep in mind is I'm going to sit in a place where there's a wall behind me. There's no distractions behind me. And I can see everything that's going on behind them. Yep. So they're not, if they're towards the wall, if they're sitting by the wall and they're facing me and they can see the doors and they can see people walking by, they're losing that engagement. So it's important for me to flip that. So they're only looking at me. They're only looking at my computer, my presentation, and I have their complete focus. So again, we'll take advantage of our downtown office, but we also, again, want to, we want what's easiest and best for the client. And, if they say, well, we're on the northeast side of town, well, I have no problem driving downtown. But if I'm at the warehouse office and I have to drive downtown to, again, meet somebody who's also on my side of town, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's almost a convenience thing. You kind of turn it on them. You're like, oh, I don't want to make you guys drive downtown. Well, right. I don't want to drive downtown.
Yeah. Well, and so when it comes to meetings, I do have a host in person. I don't have an office outside the home. This is it. This is what is, what you see get. And so I use coffee shops all the time. And like you already acknowledged, Jeremy, right? I'm sure some are going to go, oh, you guys do that. Well, look, I sell DJ services at what is considered a ridiculously high number. So you can not doing it if you want, but the reality is, people are investing, pretty, what I consider serious dollars in the services I offer. And so it doesn't appear as though, me meeting up with JC and her fiance, Mark, last week in Coffee Culture, which is a coffee shop. They booked July next year. So it didn't appear to be an issue for them. I will often say, I will often offer them two things. Do you have a favorite coffee shop that you want to meet at? Or do you want me to come by your place? And I will meet some couples in their home, which
so that's one thing I love. Oh man, I've never, I can't say I've never. I've done that once. I felt so uncomfortable. I'm like, what if these people are going to kill me? No, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable going into somebody's home as I almost feel like a vacuum salesman. Like, hey, I got something to sell you. Let me come to your house and let me show you how this is all done. I don't know. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I struggle with going into somebody's house and selling them my services.
See, I've never felt that way. I'll offer you, I guess, the perspective of why I love it. Okay. A couple is considering me to be their ultimate representative at this bizarrely expensive and non-logical party they're having.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
So when I'm given the opportunity to set foot inside their house, I get to know them in a drastically different way than I do meeting them anywhere else. I get to comment on the picture that's on the wall. I get to say hi to their dog. I get to, they are given the opportunity to offer me tea because they're tea people or whatever. And I might ask them why. They have something on the wall from a trip they were on. I get to ask them about that. It actually creates for a lot more organic conversations than meeting in a coffee shop does.
Okay.
And, I'm trying to figure out how to deal with the comment you made about, I don't want to feel like a salesman going into their house. I don't know. I guess this may sound cliche to say, maybe I just think that, look, they're looking to purchase something and I just offered them the ultimate level of service because I didn't call on them first. They called on me.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that vacuum sales guy, you don't call him. He knocks and he's like, hey, can I come in? So maybe there's the difference. I don't know. I love it because of the intimacy of it. And, I think I've mentioned before on the show, by the time wedding day hits, if I've done my job right, I'm working for just friends. And that's a personal decision.
I agree with that.
I work to blur the line between, was he hired or was he a friend of theirs? And I don't know. I guess I just find that that's one, pardon the pun, but one foot in the door to getting even closer to that in the consult.
So if you were going to go pick out a car and the car salesman said, you know what, let me swing it by your house tonight. Let's sit down. We'll have a cup of coffee. We'll talk about this car. Would you be cool with that?
Well, car salesmen already have a bad rap with me. So
do DJs.
Well, that's true. That is true. I don't know. I see where you're coming from. I guess it's maybe what strikes me most odd about this is that I've never felt that way. I'm trying to remember. Oh, let's see. God, I forget the name now. June 3rd, 2016 wedding. Geez, we had so many great meetings in our house. The consult was there. A planning session was there. So much fun. They have a little girl now. She's adorable. I follow them on Facebook. Huh. I don't know.
Anyway,
as for the tips regarding coffee shop, always what Jeremy said, I ensure that where I'm sitting is going to make sure they cannot see the front door.
Yeah. And same thing, like if you say, because I've met people at a bar before too, and they're like, hey, let's grab some drinks, let's talk about your wedding, so on and so on.
Yeah.
Same thing. You don't want to have them in a position where they can sit there and watch the TV the entire time. And I mean, I'm guilty as this as well. You know, we go out to dinner as a family and there's like a TV on in the background, and, you know, I'll catch myself like looking over there. I could care less what's on the TV, but it's just that it's like that thing, that movement. It's like, oh, what's going on? Oh, they're catching bass fish. I don't even like catching bass fish.
You know, you do bring up a good point. I have had one consult that I can think of right now. I'm sure more than one. Let's just say 2 to be generous. I've had a couple of consults where the TV was a problem, and it was a problem because I met them in their house.
Okay.
Right? Sure. I can control what they were looking at like I can more so in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Right?
You don't want to be like, can you guys turn your TV off?
Right. I mean, I remember distinctly there was a football game on or something, and it was his team playing.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't even care. He doesn't even know you're in the house.
Right. And oddly enough, and I remember this couple, God, I'd forgotten all about this until you said TV. Oddly enough, I remember thinking to myself, you know, they're definitely not really my type of couple. Well, I'll be damned, they hired me. And we ended up creating some remarkable personal moments at their wedding. In fact, one part of their wedding, I remember this, I slipped him a microphone halfway through their first dance song, and I edited it out so that the last half was actually a version without the vocals, and he sang the final bit to her while he was dancing.
That's awesome. Right?
So totally went from being, oh, here's the guy that just won't turn off the TV given the time of day, to, well, what? So, quick question for you, Jer. Burning Minds want to know from the YouTube feed, what are you working on the table?
That's a great question. So, if you have Mike Walters, take a drink. If you have Mike Walters creating or building your DJ, basically these are our Jenga pieces. This was our training from last night. So the guys we have a lot of the popular songs that we do. I'm not going to try and I don't want to explain all of it, because you just need to go get Mike Walters his CD on this, building a multi-op. Basically, it has all of the popular songs, and then what we did is they actually had to guess who the artists were for each song. We had 3 guys who were training last night. So when they guessed it, they got those pieces. And then what I did is they actually had to build sets using all of the pieces that they had, and basically went over, okay, why did this song go to this song, or why did this one go to this? Maybe move this one up here. So they kind of built a set structure. So that's what, there's 3 boxes of Jenga pieces on this table. So yeah, it's such a fun training. The guys had a blast with it.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
And then what they did was, I said, okay, I want you to grab 5 in a row. Okay, so they'd grab these 5. Yeah. And I said, now I want you to go mix it. And so they went on the mixer, and they had to mix the song. So then they realized, like, oh, okay, yeah, the BPMs were way off on this. You know, I didn't realize that this song was this slow and this song was this fast. So it helped them understand that even though songs might not be the same BPMs, if they're the same styles, they could still mesh together. You just have to mix it differently.
Yeah.
And actually, it was funny because before we got on the show, MJ just finished his show, and I have to go watch his show that he had before ours. He talked about where do you start certain songs, and why would you start a song at the beginning compared to why wouldn't you start at the middle, or start here, or start it on the chorus, or start on the hook. So that was part of his show, and it was interesting to kind of get his perspective on why he does certain things with his mixes. So if you didn't see MJ's show, go check that out. He talks a lot about that in this last show. So I'm going to go check that out.
Nice. I need to catch up on a boatload of MJ's shows. I know. I continuously get the impression they're ridiculously valuable, but I think, as you mentioned earlier, you know, I'm putting my kids to bed when his show goes on, so it's not always the best time. But I just
it's so hard. My days have been so long. Yesterday, so we have American Cancer coming up this weekend, and the organization asked me to speak on the behalf for media, because they're like, well, you're pretty comfortable in front of people. Do you mind go talking on camera? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I had to be at the news station at 5 a.m. For the morning show. So 5 a.m. And then basically my day just like went from there. I went, worked out, which if you don't have Celebrate Life, go get that book. It talks about making a routine for yourself and making sure that, your exercise and your physical fitness is part of your routine. Otherwise the rest of your day doesn't matter. Because you don't know, if you don't take care of yourself, you don't know how many days you have. So
I need to dig into that book again.
Yeah. Oh gosh, great book.
So then,
yep.
Get it.
Get it. So then like my day was just so long, and then we did training last night. I had to unload the truck from this last weekend because I know the snowstorm was going to come, and it was just such a crazy day. And I don't even know how we got into this conversation. Why are we talking about this?
So before we go to the next topic, one of the questions in the feed is, when it comes to one of the meetings, a consult, have you ever said no to a client after a meeting? Let's say they are not a good fit or seem they will be micromanaging the whole process, bridezillas, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating question, Mr. J. Funk Sanchez.
All right. You want to start?
Sure.
Go for it.
Once I said no to a client, but this stuff is way easier said than done.
Yeah.
I ended up saying no to them in a soft way that wasn't overly obvious. I won't go into details about the consult because we're already 9:30, 10:30 Eastern, but they just weren't a good fit. She got a hold of me a month and a half after the consult, something like that. I said, hey, Dave, if you're still open, we want to book you. And I went, I really apologize, but I am no longer available.
Way to give it to her. Nice.
And there was okay, do you recommend anybody? I shot all the names of a few DJs.
Brian Purple.
and no. And not DJs that I disliked. They just weren't going to be a fit for me. For my level of involvement, for what I ask of my couples, which is a lot. In this case, him in particular, was a complete words I can't use on this show. But I'm going to make a quick comment about the question, though, regarding the whole, they seem they'll be micromanaging, bridezillas, et cetera. I want to say I specialize in those brides. Yeah. I would much prefer a bridezilla, what people refer to bridezillas, and a micromanager versus the opposite. I can't get them to do the stuff I need them to do. I care more than they do. That polar opposite to me is a far worse situation to be in. So,
yeah. So my take on that, the nice thing is I run a multi-op. So I have the opportunity to say I'm personally not a fit, but here you go. No, and I don't want to put it that way, but so all of my guys have different personalities. All of my guys do things differently. They're not near as detailed as I am. So a bride who's a little bit more like, I don't really care, probably isn't a good fit for me, but man, do I have a DJ for her. So right. That's a powerful thing for me. As a company, we've done it probably 3 or 4 times where we've just told a couple that, you know what you're looking for isn't what we do. And it comes down to asking them the questions. And that's the important thing. Yeah. Don't just tell them about your DJ services. You need to understand what they're looking for, and then you need to make the decision. So being able to say no means you have some great power and you have good listening skills. If you're just saying no just to say no, you're saying no for the wrong reason. If you are saying no because you think that someone else in your market is going to give them a better experience, then that's when you need to be honest with them and you need to tell them that.
Yeah, very true. Well, and like I mentioned, right, the situation that I turned away, he was just for a little more context, about a week after that consult, he happened to be a guest at an event I was a part of. And I kid you not, he started stacking empty drink cans on top of an operational uplight.
Oh.
And he knew exactly who I was.
Yeah.
And I went over and I'm like, I pretended I hadn't seen him put them there, and I went and picked them up. I'm like, if you don't mind just making sure nobody puts things on here that, if you don't mind helping out, that'd be great. Thanks, man. And I kid you not, 5 minutes later, I see him glancing over at me and him setting his drink can back on top of it.
He probably thought the same thing of you. Like, yeah, this is the beep, and then do our wedding.
Yeah. If you want to know the honest truth, I think he did not, like, he was the last person in the world that wanted to hire me, but she was all over what I did.
He was all over you?
All over what I did.
Maybe that's why he didn't like you.
And so I think he was truth be told, I think he was doing that so that I wouldn't take them on. My guess is the month and a half time span between the consult and when she said yes was her trying to convince him to spend the money. And then when he finally was like, whatever, I don't know. Anyway.
Dumping drinks on his lights.
Yeah.
Screw this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got, sorry.
Ron Roy agreed the brides that don't have their together are always the ones that end up complaining post gig. Yeah, Ron, I think you're right. I really think you're right. Quick shout out to past bride of mine, Jillian. She was a September 2012 wedding. Some might have considered her bridezilla because she was so detail oriented, and she pushed me a lot for me to be more organized than I maybe normally am a couple of weeks out. And her pushing me to become that way has led to far greater success in every one of my events since. So
that is a great point. I know I've had a certain client that had really turned around what I did as an entertainer. It's like, but I've always been doing it this way. And then you realize that, this really is a better idea. And this is a better option for my clients.
Yeah. Sometimes those hard questions, that insistence on a certain something may drive you up the wall, but you can't have your blinders on. You cannot have your blinders on. So, Jared, you want to close this show?
Yeah, to close this show, we've got 10 minutes. Okay. A little, again, if you just jumped on, you didn't hear at the beginning of the show here. I had a wedding this weekend, and we had 17 inches of snow, and we had 60 mile per hour winds. They shut down the mall in Sioux Falls. And if the mall shuts down in Sioux Falls, the city is shut down. Like, nobody goes anywhere. Wow. Nobody travels. So I had a wedding that was scheduled. They had about 140 on the guest list. And an interesting thing is the same hotel that I was at, they ended up booking a last minute wedding because the venue for their original wedding, this isn't my wedding, this is a different wedding, their venue canceled on them on Friday for their Saturday wedding.
Because of the weather?
Because of the weather. The venue said, sorry, we're not going to host your wedding because of the weather that's going to be coming, so on and so on. And so they canceled the wedding at that venue, and they actually had to go to a different venue. They went in town in Sioux Falls, and they had their wedding, really small room. But just to give you an idea how bad the weather was, like actually, if you go on to our DJ Jer or Sioux Falls DJ Jer Facebook page, you'll see a picture of me driving down what is the busiest road in Sioux Falls, Minnesota Avenue. And you can barely see anything. I think there was 2 cars on the road. So yeah. And they were 4-wheel drive pickup trucks. That was the only way you were getting around. Except for us who showed up in a minivan. So we're driving there. We're thinking, oh man, this is, I feel so bad for this bride and groom. We get there and they have a wedding party of 10 people. So you have the wedding party of 10, you have the bride and groom. I was the officiant for this wedding. I had my assistant with me to run the ceremony music, and just to kind of help out with other logistics going on throughout the evening. And we didn't know what we were going to expect when, guest arrival was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say the 10 people in the wedding party was more people than they actually had to show up at the wedding.
So out of the 100 plus people that were supposed to be there?
Yep. Out of 140 some that were supposed to be there, they had about 8 people show up.
No.
Yeah. So, the reason I bring this up is because you basically, as an MC, your whole mindset has to change. How does this event completely change? What things do you have to do differently than you originally had planned? How do you keep in mind the safety of the guests who are there? because obviously they're not going to want to stick around till midnight. So we basically pulled the bride and groom off to the side before, actually we got all the ceremony stuff set up. And the ceremony, it was nice that the ceremony was actually at the same venue. So there wasn't like a ceremony and then drive to go to the venue. Nobody probably would have came then. Everyone probably would have just gone to the ceremony and went home.
Yeah.
If they would have even gone to the ceremony. So I think the fact that it was all in one area probably helped them get at least 8 people there. So we basically had to rewrite the agenda. Ceremonies time didn't change. We actually waited a little bit longer just in case there were some people who were battling the weather trying to get there. So we waited about another 5 minutes past the original time. So it was like 4:05. We did the wedding. And then we had cocktails starting at 4:30, and it was supposed to go until 5:45. So it's supposed to go for a full hour. I'm like, you know what? Let's try to move this up. Let's move it up to 5:15. Let's start dinner at 5:15. And then, so when we started dinner, originally we had planned, well, it's buffet style. It's going to take us about a half hour to get 140 people through, and then we'll go on to the next activity. Well, with a total of 18, 20 some people, it's like, okay, well, we just served everybody in the matter of 5 minutes, So the whole agenda changed. And then we had to look at, what do I have to do to make sure that the bride and groom still feel special? And the biggest thing that we had to do was we had to make everybody engage with every single moment that happened. So when we did the cake cutting, and I know it's like every single person, you had 8 people. We had the wedding party, we had the 8 guests. When we did the cake cutting, every single person was there, because we didn't want the bride and groom to be doing the cake cutting when you had 8 people, 18 people off in the distance when this moment was going on. We wanted to engage everybody. We got everybody over there. We gathered them around. They were all a part of that experience. I mean, they hired a videographer, they had a photographer, they were all there, So again, you don't want that to be in their video where the bride and groom are cutting the cake all by themselves and there's 18 people off in the background. So it's like, okay, let's get them involved in this. Let's get them part of the scene. Let's get them, as the backdrops. And, so that was a really important part of just kind of moving people around and getting them in the right spots and just making sure that everybody felt like this was a tight knit wedding, because you know what? It was. We had 18 people there to celebrate.
So it was obviously a shorter night than probably normal.
Well, so we were supposed to have the dance go until 11 o'clock. And that's just because that's how the original agenda was created. Okay. So
that's already an early night. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's usually an hour. It's early. It's an hour earlier than what we typically do. But again, knowing that the ceremony was at 4, everything was there. We knew that the agenda was going to go pretty quick. Obviously it went a lot quicker. So we moved the dance up. We moved the dance up to start at 6:30. So again, we really moved some things along. Dance started at 6:30. And again, our goal was to engage as many people as possible. And I think I kind of got this. I think it was you that was saying last week, we have 1 hour. Let's get everybody really focused in this 1 hour. And then make them just ask for more. Ask them for another 15 minutes, half hour. Was that you?
I often use the line, leave them wanting more, but I don't think that was.
Yeah.
Was it? Maybe.
I thought it was you. Anyways, well, whoever it was, you guys are geniuses. Dave really is. No. So what we did is, again, when it came down to the first dance starting at 6:30, we gathered everybody around the dance floor. So as the videographer's panning around the bride and groom doing their first dance, again, they're seeing all of their friends and family who could make it. And, as an MC, I kind of made the point where it's like, we're thankful that everybody is safe tonight. We really appreciate you being here and spending time with these two as they begin their lives together, and so on and so on. So I gave those people recognition. Like, I didn't want to just say all the people didn't show up. Gosh, well, we hate them. We basically said we're happy that they're safe. We're happy that everyone is at home. But we really appreciate you being here and celebrating with these two, taking your time out of your evening on a night like this and showing them how much you love them. So kind of taking a negative and making it a positive. So then when we got done doing that, they didn't do a father-daughter or a son-mother dance. And so we basically just said, everybody squeeze in right now. And then we started, she wanted I Got a Feeling for Wedding Party Dance. Well, it didn't make sense for me just to bring the wedding party out and have the 8 people standing on the outside of the dance floor. So we brought everybody in, we kicked off the dance, and the videographer and photographer were like, oh my gosh, we got such great pictures. And that is what the bride and groom are going to remember. That it could have been one song, and they were out there for a couple songs. But what was originally moving the schedule up, okay, we're going to end at 10:30. We ended up going until 11 o'clock. So we ended up going 4.5 hours for their dance, when I thought these 8 people in the wedding party probably had rooms at the hotel. The guests were all in Sioux Falls. So they were going to be traveling. They were going to go home that night. We ended up going until 11 o'clock, which I was shocked. I thought we were going to be done at like 8:30, you know, but they hung in there. They enjoyed it. They loved the music. Not every single person danced, but they enjoyed the music. You know, you could see them like dancing in their chair, just listening to the music and engaging with it. Now, a couple other things I had to keep in mind was, okay, I don't want to toss the bouquet to 3 ladies. So what we did is we had our photo booth there as well, and we wanted people to engage with that. Oh my gosh, did they ever? They had like these kids that were just like nonstop at the photo booth. Okay, so the bride and groom, they know they got their money's worth in the photo booth as well, because you know, to give away the bouquet, and I didn't say what the prize was, but when we started dinner, I said, okay, there's a photo booth over there the bride and groom want you to take advantage of, and whoever has the best picture, the silliest picture, the funnest picture, we have a prize for you.
That's
And
cool.
so all of these people started going over to the photo booth, and they were taking fun pictures. They were taking advantage of the things that we provided for them. And again, the bride and groom are going to get all these pictures. They're going to have like, with 18 people, they're probably going to have 500 pictures, because I mean, they seriously went nuts with the photo booth, which is great.
Wow.
So then we said, okay, bring up your favorites, and then we'll go through them. And then we had a couple judges, and we gave the bouquet to the person. It was actually a boy, so it was kind of funny, but
Right.
there was no point on throwing a bouquet. Skipped the garter. There was no point of auctioning off a garter to 8 people or 18 people. So again, you had to kind of revamp everything. And then in that last song, again, you need to pack the dance floor. You need to bring everybody out, have everybody engage with that moment, even though there's only a few people there. But again, those are the memories that you have to create, even when you have situations like that. So it is now 9:45. That is the end of my story. I'm going to leave you with that.
So that would have been a harder event, though. I mean, from the perspective of, you know, yes, you know, you can have successful events where there's, you know, maybe less dancing than you would like. But for me, those are certainly harder to get through.
Oh, yeah.
That type of thing. So, I mean, I don't doubt this wasn't one of those. I got to ask, were there any tears? Like, were there any like really upset, like, oh my freaking God, do we go on with this, Jer?
So I don't think they ever had that mindset, because she was even texting me in the morning and saying, hey, I haven't, she was pretty disorganized. She's like, hey, I haven't picked out the song that the bridesmaids are walking up to yet. I'm like, no sweat. You know, so I mean, even in the morning, she's thinking, I'm not canceling this thing. This is going to happen.
Right.
You know, her photographer showed up, her videographer showed up. The only person that did not show up out of everybody was the florist. And she's like, you know what? The flowers are very minimal when you look at everything that's here. She's like, if anything didn't show up, that's what I would have not to have, or that's what I would not want to show up.
Right.
So sorry,
Right.
florist, but you know, that's just how, you know, some people feel.
Yeah, way to piss off the internet, Jeremy. A lot of florists watch this show.
I'm sure there's a lot of florists on this show watching. But when it came to tears, no, you could see that there was some disappointment. And I was disappointed, you know, because you always want the best for your couples when you spend time with them. And again, as their officiant, you're spending more time with them, and you're engaging with them even more. And to almost like have their heart broken for this day that means so much to them, it's a really hard thing. But you know, they made the best of it. Us 22 people in that room made the best of it, and that's the most important thing.
Gold. Great story. Great save as well. Mr. Sanchez says on the YouTube feed. And Mr. Sanchez just says also, I'm a florist. Joke. Haha. I see John is chiming into the feed. Thanks for chiming in there, John. There was a question by Sanchez. No, sorry. Who's it? do you teach? Oh yeah, it was from you. Do you teach clients how to use DJAP at the meetings? John has already posted a reply, so we don't have to go deep down this rabbit hole. We can leave it for now, maybe. But I will say, at the consult, I show it to them briefly, but it's literally like 30 seconds out of that consult. I do not show them how to use it. Do not want them to feel overwhelmed or anything.
Yeah, and you use it differently than how I use it.
Yeah, you and I need to talk about that one day.
That is the VIP paid session to be a part of. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. That's a wrap. We'll see you next week on Wedding Chat with Dave and
me, Jeremy.
New name.
Yeah. Gosh, what do I have going on next Wednesday? Oh, I'll be back in town Wednesday. I'll be back.
Beautiful.
We will see you next Wednesday. Thanks for watching, guys.
Everyone, cheers.
Tonight's DJNTV show is sponsored in part by Electro Voice, DJ Event Planner, ADJ, NLFX Professional, Promo Only, Numark, and DJNTV Insiders.